All right, everybody, good afternoon. Here's another head coaching candidate for you guys to all chew on. And even though we're talking about this guy near the end of the series, this one's actually really interesting. I didn't want to talk about him early because I know this is extremely unlikely for pretty obvious reasons. But this is actually kind of fun. I would certainly prefer this to a lot of the things that the Seahawks could do. I would certainly have more fun with a guy like a Todd Monken than a Raheem Morris or even a Dan Quinn. Like, I can't guarantee it would work, but there's something brewing here with Todd Monken. He's almost 60 years old. He's one of the oldest guys I've looked at here. He's had a career in and out of various relatively unimpressive stations, but what he's done over the last 3 years is very notable, and we need to have this conversation about Mr. Monken because he is on the verge of potentially having two straight national championships and a Super Bowl win in back to back to back years. Two-time offensive coordinator, national championship winner in Georgia, and then whatever the Ravens end up doing. Like, that is there's got to be a conversation we can have here because, okay, 58 years old, like I said, older than most of these guys, but he feels like a relatively recent revelation. He has 1 year as a coordinator with the Ravens this year, 2023, and the Ravens offense has been elite. 28.4 points per game, .069 EPA per play, sixth in the league. Elite, or borderline elite, really, really good at the very least. Um, Remember, guys, this Ravens offense was below average last year. This Ravens offense last year was not good. They were not even average. This is outside of maybe Lamar's MVP season, and I think this offense is better. This is clearly the best offense that Lamar has had since at least 2019, and probably the best offense he's ever had. So he's doing something right. He's tapping into something that previous offensive coordinators, I think he had, was it Greg Roman for a little while, just couldn't quite tap into. So something that he's doing has really just found that groove. So Todd Monken, very impressive work in Baltimore for sure, but on its own, I don't know if that would be enough. But when you tie in what he's done over the last 2 seasons at Georgia, where he was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for 3 seasons, it's as impressive a resume as you are going to find for any coordinator in all of professional or amateur football. So, could he ride that to a head coaching gig, especially if the Ravens win it all this year? Very possibly. Last year, 2022, the Bulldogs offense was fifth in the country, 41 points per game. Stetson Bennett, really good college quarterback, over 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks, high completion percentage, really good. 2021, another national championship winner, 38.6 points per game, ninth in the country. So top 10 offenses 2 years in a row, really hard in college football. Stetson Bennett, really good, 29 touchdowns, almost 3,000 yards, 7 interceptions, lower completion percentage. So you do see Bennett kind of developing over those 2 years. And then you go back to 2020, his first year. Georgia's offense still pretty good, but not a juggernaut. They're still okay. Stetson Bennett, not nearly as good. So you can see the development as well. He turned Stetson Bennett from whatever into a two-time national championship. And I know Stetson Bennett is still not a pro-level quarterback, but for the college game, he cut the mustard. No problem. He cut the mustard with plenty of room to spare. And this year, by the way, Bennett didn't even play the full season. We also had some JT Daniels, who actually played a lot better than Stetson Bennett. 10 touchdowns, 2 picks, 178 QB rating, 1,200 yards. So he got good things out of JT Daniels for a year as well. And yeah, that's an incredible run as an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Georgia. Couldn't have done better, pretty much. Georgia did not lose a game the last 2 years he was there, largely on the back of his offense being as good as it was. They were not riding the defense. Before then, however, the resume becomes a little less impressive. He spent a year as an offensive coordinator in Cleveland in 2019. That was the Freddie Kitchens year, though, so I don't know if I'm really going to kill him for that. 20.9 points per game, was 22nd in the league. Bad offense. Bad in EPA as well, 21st in EPA. Pretty forgettable. But again, that's the Freddie Kitchens year. When Freddie Kitchens is your head coach, then Freddie Kitchens is your head coach. Spent a year in Tampa Bay as the offensive coordinator. Actually did pretty well. This was the 2018 Bucks. Almost 25 points a game. Good EPA, 12th in the league. This was a Jameis Winston year. And better than average, I would say. Not the greatest amount of talent. He had good talent at receiver, right? But part of the reason why they had good talent at receiver was because the 2 years prior, he served as the offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach. 2016-2017, he was the offensive coordinator for two offenses that were average to maybe slightly below average, but collectively about average offensively, and some great receivers. Mike Evans, Adam Humphries, Russell Shepard, Vincent Jackson, Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, all went through Tampa Bay under his watch. Mike Evans has become a future Hall of Famer. Deshaun Jackson passed through at the very tail end of his career, granted, but this is impressive stuff. So it's not a crazy impressive resume, but it's pretty good at the same time. Like, I'm not looking at this and thinking to myself, man, this is a guy who I don't want anything to do with. No, this is somebody who is building up some positive things on his resume that have culminated with what we've seen in Georgia and Baltimore the last 3 seasons. Before then, he did get a chance as a head coach at a smaller school, the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, for 3 years, 2013, 2015. He completely turned that awful program around. 2013, they were 1-11. Next year, they were 3-9, and then the next year, they were 9-5. The offense went from literally one of the worst in the country to one of the worst in the country to one of the best in the country. So he did everything that you could have expected from a head coach during his time with the Southern Miss Gold Eagles. So great work from him there. Nothing I can take away from him here. So he's working his way up. I think you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. This is impressive. He spent some time as an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Oklahoma State, 2 seasons, and he was really good. Both seasons, Oklahoma State was top 3 in the country in scoring. Now, I don't want to go crazy with that because Oklahoma State's offense during this era was always good, and that was before and after Todd Monken passed through, so it's not like he did that, but he did his job. And while in the second year, he didn't really get great quarterback play, he had 3 different guys taking snaps. Clint Chief, J.W. Walsh, Wes Lunt, none of those guys ever became anything. None of those guys played very well. J.W. Walsh played okay, I guess. The first year, he turned Brandon Weeden into a first-round pick despite being 85 years old. 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns, 13 picks, 72.4 completion percentage. He made Brandon Weeden a first-round pick because he looked so good in that Oklahoma State Cowboys offense. So he was cooking. He cooked. The dude cooked at Oklahoma State. Maybe he didn't cook that much better than his predecessors and his successors, but he cooked. Before then, he spent 4 years as the wide receiver coach in Jacksonville with the Jaguars. Not a ton here to talk about, honestly. Not great. You had Mike Thomas for a couple years here. He was okay. Mike Sims-Walker, he had some decent seasons. Torrey Holt at the very end of his career. You had Matt Jones, Dennis Northcutt. Remember Reggie Williams had one of his better seasons there. Ernest Wilford that first year when Jacksonville was actually a good team. So I don't have much to say here. None of these receivers broke 900 yards in any one season. So when you get back to this part of the resume, yeah, it's not very good. It's problematic for sure. You go back before that to LSU, where he was the passing game coordinator and wide receiver coach for 2005 to 2006 with Jamarcus Russell as the quarterback. You do find a couple of notable receivers under his tutelage. You've got Dwayne Bowe, Early Doucette, Craig Davis, and Skylar Green. All 4 of those guys would go on to be at least 4th-round picks. I think Dwayne Bowe was a 1st-round pick, and Early Doucette was a 2nd-rounder. Craig Davis was 3rd. Skylar Green was 4th. So did some nice stuff at LSU. Was part of a fairly prolific passing attack with Jamarcus Russell, who would eventually go number 1 overall. So, I don't know. I know this is kind of a wild card here, but I gotta say, this is impressive to me. Todd Monken, maybe we need to be talking about this guy a little bit more. It's not just this one year. It's not just one thing that kind of came out of nowhere and, oh my God, look at what he's doing with Baltimore. No, this is something that he's been building up to. And while the last 3 years blow away everything he's done before, what he's done before is not bad. So what do you guys think about this one? I mean, I think this one's very interesting for me personally. And I don't feel like talking about it that much because I don't see it happening, but maybe it should happen. Give me this guy over even somebody like, honestly, give me this over Bobby Slowick any day of the week. No problem. All right. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Um, Probably another video coming later, but we are nearing the end of the head coaching search, so pretty soon here we'll be wrapping it all up and seeing where we stand. All right. Go Hawks.